Moving forward, I'm going to structure my videos in this format, which is sort of a train of thought kind of exercise. I'm going to make mistakes. I'm going to leave those mistakes in there because hopefully that will bring more to you. I'm a firm believer that AI has basically made everything worse, and the only thing that we have left still is the human touch. And humans make mistakes. So you're going to see some mistakes here. Now, what problem am I going to solve, or am I solving in this video here? I'm trying to create content for this platform, YouTube, and not only YouTube, behind the scenes on this larger project I'm working on. The larger project is kind of complex. It has a lot of moving parts, and I kind of need to use all the tools that I can get my hands on to make it easier to digest, to explain things easier. So I looked for something that's called, usually an annotation tool or an annotation application. I did not like what I found, so obviously I had to make my own. This is the project in development mode. Obviously, once you install it, you're just going to run the application normally. You wouldn't have to touch the command line. But since we're in dev mode, this is how we run things, npm run dev. This starts a couple of programs under the hood. I'm not going to go into detail on that. I'm just going to attempt to show you how it works and why it works the way that it does. So the first thing you're going to notice here is that we now have this very nice, let me orient things a bit. And I think I already made the first mistake, yay. We're not even, a few seconds in the video and I'm already making mistakes. I wasn't supposed to show you that yet, but we'll get there. So this is the application toolbar. This is something that you're going to use very lightly in the beginning and then not at all. So the whole point here is that this settings toolbar needs to become completely invisible. You have to forget that it exists. Once you start the application, you just minimize the toolbar, you make it go away like this by pressing Command, comma, right? So this is very common, Command, comma for the settings toolbar, or by going into the icon on the top and disabling the toolbar from there. So there are multiple entry points to get to this. So it's very, very easy and very convenient to show and hide the toolbar whenever you need to do that. However, the philosophy here is that you should never touch the settings toolbar as you're presenting. I really hate apps, so I've seen other annotation tools try to do this. They're obviously not targeted towards content creators, because when you're in content mode, you really don't have the mental energy capacity to focus on the tool itself. You have to expend all of your energy on the subject matter you're trying to present in a way that's very easy to digest per public. So the extra mental effort to manage the settings toolbar should be as close to 0 as possible, and I have made it 0 here. But in order to do that, I had to make a couple of decisions that are not necessarily pleasing to people who want to use this more like Photoshop. So let me show what I'm talking about. The tool allows you to just have at it. So I want to present stuff that's happening on screen. I'm just going to move my pointer there and just drag. That's it, like swipe on the screen and stuff appears. It's that simple. I want to delete something, hold the escape key. You'll notice that the cursor has changed. Now I can erase things on screen. If the cursor is too small, let's make it bigger. Now this is a big cursor. This is the cursor for TikTok, right? If you do this in vertical mode, this is the cursor you probably want. There are a couple of extra options here, but the most important ones are the following. For the text, let's say you want to write some text here. You just double click. So no shortcuts, you don't need to think about this. I just want to write something here. So here because this also needs to make a little bit of sense, we are using React.js, obviously. This is the library that we're using under the hood. You might have noticed using stuff like use translation. These are keywords that are very common to the React framework. Just double click and text appears. Want to edit the text? Just click on the text and do whatever you want. Now, you want to drag? Just swipe. You want to have more control over your lines, you want to make straight lines, then you need to hold Command and swipe. And now you can create lines. You want to have boxes, Command, Shift, swipe. So simple swipe, Command swipe, Command Shift swipe. You don't have to think about it, really. Like when you're presenting, because you're only using these two keys, it's going to be, you know, really intuitive, really straightforward, right? So let me hide that. What if you want to present stuff on screen that later fades out? That tool is called a laser, and you activate the laser by simply holding the Shift key. So this is the laser. The toolbar, the focus or the purpose of the toolbar is only to configure these tools once. For each and every single one of these tools, we're going to have some options like color. We're going to be able to change the color for everything. Border color, I usually prefer dark mode on everything, and because I'm already using dark mode, the text and everything else kind of has to be white to have a high contrast. But if you're using white on white, that obviously becomes invisible. So every single element that is drawn on screen, from text to every single shape, has a tiny border, a 1 pixel border that is set by default to pure black, so that when you draw over white, you still see the text or the shapes that you have drawn. But you can obviously switch this. Maybe if you're using exclusively white, you might want the text and everything else to be black, so that you don't strain your eyes too much, right, with having mostly white content and just a tiny bit of bordering here and there. You can change the size from the extra small to the extra incredibly large and obnoxious font that you might use for a screenshot, you know, or for a thumbnail or for something like that, if you don't want to mess around with things. And you're going to have a couple of fonts. I have chosen fonts not for how they look, but for how they feel, because feel is very important in any medium that is addressing a large audience. You're not only focusing on what you say, you should also focus on how you say it and what that information carries in terms of emotion, right? So emotion is also very important. So I've chosen fonts that reflect either childish or happiness, you know, happy tones, things like that. I'm just going to change back to the default, which I think is either Rancho or Caveat. I have no idea. I think it was Rancho by default. Okay, but why am I showing you this? Your intuition is correct. Anytime I change a setting, everything that's already rendered on screen changes. You cannot have multiple versions of a tool rendered at the same time. So you cannot have white text and green text and black text available on screen. Once you have chosen the color to be white, it's always going to be white. And the reasoning for that is quite simple. For one, and this is important to me, you need to have visual consistency. Visual consistency is important because it creates a feeling of beauty. Any UX or UI person is going to tell you this. When you're composing a layout, when you're building a website or a presentation, landing page or something like that, even applications, consistency is extremely important to the overall layout, to the design. You need to have everything set in a specific tone and repeat that tone, because repetition is something that our brains really enjoys. So if you have more than one color on screen, you're going to create visual discrepancies, which are, for lack of a better word again, ugly. And you don't want to convey the feeling of ugliness, because again, I'm going to point back to that feeling once more. It's not just what you say and how you say it, it's how it makes people feel. That's super important and non-trivial, actually. And if you can get away with making people feel comfortable just by using a consistent layout, then I think you should go for it, right? So imposing that once you set the rules, they are set in stone, means that you have visual consistency. Visual consistency makes everything you're drawing on screen feel more intentional, and it just makes people feel better for watching it. So the first one is visual consistency. The second one is that you need to, quote unquote, set it and forget it. So I've chosen this thickness for my lines. Like, who cares? Why would I ever want to have more than that? And why would I want to think about, oh, how do I open the settings toolbar? Control, command, comma. Oh, okay, so where's the line setting thing? It's here. Ah, well, I want to change that to thin. You have just wasted seconds, maybe more, on trying to find that thing, that setting, for nothing. So the end result is not going to be better because you've drawn a shallower line this time. What you can do is set specific colors for specific tools and use that. So I'm going to show you this is a tiny hack. So let's configure this. So let's say that simple lines, just swiping on screen, are white. If I want to draw solid lines, straight lines, let's make those a sort of yellowish, something yellow, okay? And if I'm drawing boxes, let's make the boxes blue. Is blue a good color? I think, yeah. So this allows you, let me clear the screen with escape, and hide the toolbar. You see, like the whole, well, let's show and hide the toolbar. Now I have 3 colors at my disposal, which means that I can do stuff like this. With a little bit more control, I can draw vertical and horizontal axes, right? And let's say I don't like that line, and I want to draw it like so. Right. I want to show 2 different things in parallel. Let's say this is thing number 1. Take my time to draw it, doesn't matter. People are patient. And thing number 2, for thing number 2, I'm just going to use a box which has different colors. That's Command Shift. Just pressed the wrong thing because I'm not an expert at this. I'm very used to my mouse. My mouse is not here, so mistakes happen on screen. And for the third color, fourth color this time, let's use the laser. And here we go. We have 3 colors on screen, but each color is associated with a tool. We have the flexibility of using 3 colors if we ever wanted to do that. But why would you? Like, in a real life scenario, the color doesn't really matter. We've been using just a simple blackboard and chalk to teach very complex topics over thousands of years, and we didn't really need more than white on black. So there's like, I don't want to hear it. I want more options. You get these options because it forces visual consistency, and it forces you to forget about the toolbar and focus on what you're trying to do here, which is present something to a large audience. To focus on the shortcuts, hold space. That activates the spotlight tool, and now you have focused on the shortcuts. The spotlight tool can also be configured to have the background color set to any alpha transparency you like, including 100%, which means everything is black. Only the portion that you're trying to grab the user attention to remains visible. This is not 100% black. Doesn't matter. Again, this is the type of setting that you only configure once. You decide it looks good to you, and you never focus on it again. So hiding the toolbar again, Command, comma, and let me make this go away. Last but not least, this is very important. This tool needs to work not only as a layer that's over everything that's in the background, but as a layer that interacts with everything that is in the background. So let me add some text here, and let me point out, okay, this has changed, right? Because I did actually change a thing here. This used to be something else. Now I want to go to the layer below my application layer. So I just want to activate something that's called a pass-through. Let me activate pass-through with Command F9. When you toggle the pass-through, this layer of icons is going to appear on screen. There are 2 types of icons. There's a dot icon, which means that you are now pointing towards the user, which means that our application layer is on top, and there's the X icon. The X icon means that now we are looking below. The current layer is the layer that's visible below our application layer, which means now everything that's behind it is interactable. I can drag and drop stuff, I can type, I can do whatever I would normally do if the application weren't open. So this thing right here, this used to be Control T. Control T used to deactivate the toolbar. I changed that to Control comma because I think that's universally used for the settings in many applications, and again, I want the app itself to be as intuitive as possible. Let's move back to the application layer and activate a spotlight to see what I have changed. So this thing right here, this used to be Control T, and now it's Control comma. Moving back, let's remove the change that I have made, discard the change, discard it, move back to the presentation layer, hide the thing, delete the text, delete everything. Let me activate the toolbar. You have these buttons here to navigate. So let me use the tool to highlight the tool. You have these buttons here to navigate through history, but these buttons are also connected to shortcuts like Command Z and Command Shift Z. So you have Command Z and everything goes back. Command Shift Z, and you have this. Maybe this is useful if you want to create a sort of a dynamic presentation. You record everything you want to show on screen before, like a few seconds. You don't need to go too far into the future, and you just press Control or Command Shift Z to redo those changes you have deleted, so that you show the progression. So let me show what I'm talking. You could do something like this. I want to show this box, and I want to show this box, and this box becomes this box, and then there's a point here. I'm going to hide everything, and as I'm talking to you, I'm just going to say we do this, and then we do that, and then we do the other thing, and then the other thing. Right? So it's useful to have history. If you want to delete everything and skip the history and just start fresh, delete everything that's on screen and not waste your time with the eraser tool following everything, just Command N, which is new, clean slate. No history, the screen is empty. So this is the tool I have built because I'm going to try to do a sort of devlog series behind the project that I'm building, and I needed this. There was nothing like this out there. The tools that exist don't do what I want them to do. They get in the way, they are clunky, the settings aren't there. Yeah, they didn't really do it for me. This is the tool that works. So let me kill the tool, and there we have it. Okay, so the tool is not live yet, but it's going to be live at drawonscreen.com. The page you're seeing right now is generated by the wonderful people at GoDaddy. They have used this photo. I think it's generated by AI. If it's not, sorry, whoever this person is. I didn't mean to use your face, but you know, the AI is taking over everything, so what can you do? And it only has this contact form. So if you're viewing this video before launch, just go ahead, contact me, and I'll reserve you a seat. You'll get the tool. Obviously, there's a discount involved because you're an early adopter, obviously. So go ahead, go to drawonscreen.com, drop us a line, and I'll let you know when the tool is live. And the tool is going to be live really soon. So that's about it. That's what I'm building. The first thing I wanted to solve was talking more about the main project I'm working on. Talking more about the main project presented itself with the problem of having to explain very complicated things in a way that's not boring, that's fun, that's easy to follow, essentially. And none of the tools that I have found satisfy that. Most of them just revolve around the idea of annotation and take things too far by pretending that they are Photoshop. And that's the thing. If you want to use Photoshop, right? If you want to do complex things, many shapes, many colors, whatever, use the right tool. If you want to present something live, like I'm trying to do here, yeah, you're going to use drawonscreen.com because it's the best tool available for the job. So if you're a content creator and you struggle with pointing to the screen and using that ugly pointer and trying to highlight text, you know, I've seen this again and again, like thousands of videos, highlighting blocks of text manually. Well, now there's a better tool for that, a tool that I hope you'll enjoy. Thank you very much for your time, and I hope to see you in the next one. Like, click, share, and subscribe. Bye-bye.